Hello, everyone. I'm on to the Criterion Connection. I'm Wade.
And I'm Joe.
The first one of 2025, and we're doing a movie we watched last year because the holidays came up and snow and all that stuff came up. So we are finally doing a release, I believe, came out last month. No Country for Old Men from 2007, a Coen Brothers film. Yes, another Coen Brothers Criterion film. We're here again. Sadly, Big Lebowski is not in the Criterion Collection. What's that about? Anyway, so 2007 stars Josh Brolin, stars Tommy Lee Jones, and stars, let's be real, the star of the show, Javier Bardem.
Breakout role.
And also people like Woody Harrelson and the guy with the stapler from Office Space is in it. I forget his name.
Stephen Root.
Stephen Root, that's his name. And it's like a neo-western-ish kind of movie.
Yeah, based on the Cormac McCarthy book.
Yes.
This is probably one of the happier ones.
This movie is very happy, very positive movie to watch. Not really. It's pretty violent.
It's a it's a neo-western, neo-noir film. Like there's so much like Hitchcockian stuff going on. Essentially, the plot follows I hesitate to say rancher because he lives in a trailer, but he's a Texas guy and he's out hunting and
not well. He's not hunting but well. He's missing his shots.
And he comes across a drug deal gone bad and finds some money and then figures, oh wow, a whole bunch of untraceable cash. This could help me and my wife. And turns out there's
Bad
people
idea.
looking for it.
Bad idea.
And it's very like, it's that cat and mouse game. It's almost like, I mean, for a while it is that like wrong man kind of story where he kind of thrusts himself into a situation that like first it escalates into a police investigation and then it's like he's getting hunted down. It's an unraveling plot of, you know, choices that could have been better.
It's a collision course of two characters, Josh Brolin's character and also Javier Bardem's character. It's just they happen to be at the same time, and Javier Bardem takes that job.
He's very serious about his work.
He's very serious about his work.
He's very serious about his morals. He's very serious about
and he's very
his viewpoint in the world and life.
And he's very serious in killing people. He's very
that's it.
Psychotic. There's a scene, probably the first scene he's in, where he's like strangling the cop, and he's got that demonic look on his face. And you're like, oh, this guy is he's pretty scary. But then you see him interacting with people, and he's just cold.
Yeah,
he's cold. Like there's no emotion or remorse, but he has like a moral with like the flipping of the coin, which is a great scene at the end where the person, I don't want to spoil anything, but the person's like, he's like, call it, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna call it.
Yeah,
you've already decided what you're gonna do. You're just using this as a fake like little like it's like Two-Face from like Batman.
Yeah,
it's like a fake more like reasoning.
He also like he very much has no patience for what he perceives as facades.
Yeah,
you know, he you know, somebody's making conversation and he just doesn't understand not being honest, not being to the point. Like
he doesn't understand small. He's not a fan of small talk.
Yeah, and it's this like whole notion of why are you being like fake nice to me? Why are you putting on a front and like you're acting a certain way, but you feel a different way? Like he's very much about that, and I think as much as Josh Brolin's character infuriates him, he also intrigues him in that way where it's like it's always like we know where each other stand, at that point, it's just a matter of I'm coming after you and you're trying to get away. And then he figures out a way to kind of ratchet up the stakes later.
Yeah, there's a cool scene that I always like remember every time I see this movie. Like, that's a great scene, a great like shot of like when he's inside Josh Brolin's house and he's sitting there, and the camera's on the reflection of like the TV, and it's just shadow. There's a lot of shadow silhouette. Like even when he's like in the beginning, the first shot, like he's in the cop car, just you don't see him at all. It's very like, he's a very cold killer versus someone that's like down in luck a little bit, and more of like scrappy.
Yeah.
And a survivalist is it's kind of a scavenger, especially when he's like, crossing the border, and you're like, there's that tense scene where he's crossing the border and he's all like busted up and stuff like that.
He's very, for as many bad decisions as he makes, he also makes a lot of really smart decisions, which is something you don't always see with your protagonists that are in situations like this. They always make like a bad decision.
Yeah.
He's actually pretty crafty in his own right. Which is what makes, I think, the interplay between him, the protagonist, and Javier Bardem's character such an engaging, like just us following them. That's what makes it so interesting, is that they are kind of matching wits in this chess game. And you have Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's just there.
You have Tommy Lee Jones's angle and kind of being the sheriff and like kind of piecing together things.
The old gun that's like on his way out. That character type.
It's a really... So this was like a Best Picture winner.
Yes.
And it's one of the ones in that decade that I personally feel was warranted, which is not something you can commonly say for the Best Picture winners in that time frame. I think this is a very deserved one. And I think a lot of the actors also deserved it for their performances and the writing. And it's just a really tremendous film.
I have an interesting kind of like feeling about this movie. And I think it's not an uncommon feeling of the first 2/3 of this movie are incredible. The last third, the last act is just, it kind of loses me.
This is post-hospital.
Post-hospital, there's a character's fate that's determined off camera.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes me out of it, and it leads to like unresolvedness.
It's a very uneasy ending for a lot of people.
And then like Tommy Lee Jones just kind of mumbles at the breakfast table
about
stuff, and you're just like,
I think that's also really born out of Cormac McCarthy writing.
Knowing it's based off like something other material, it might be because of that, but I'm thinking, man, would be great if like you had Tommy Lee Jones, like he has to go against this unstoppable evil force. Yeah. As the old, lone old gun, the old sheriff that's on his way out, but he's got one more showdown in him,
Based on kind of the tone and like the general feel of these stories, probably wouldn't like that ending either, because it would more than likely be a very sour one.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how that's how that vibe is, especially with that work. That's kind of how that story is set up in this case. Would it have been interesting to see all of it? I suppose. I think in doing it that way, I don't feel like it would add a lot. I think that unease, it does it for me in this.
Yeah,
and kind of that philosophical, like Tommy Lee Jones pointing out, like, I'm out of my element at this point. Like, things are very different now, and it's like things are changed.
Yeah, I get that. It's I
yeah.
felt like the off-camera reveal was like very deflating. Because you're so invested in the first 2/3. Well, the first, let's say, once the cat and mouse game starts happening, and ratcheting it up and building up, and then you're it's like kind of like,
on the for a counterpoint, I think the off camera allows that sense of mystery because we know how other people's fates have turned out, but we wonder, like, it gives us that hope, right? It gives us a hope that things like didn't happen the way we've seen. Maybe like that sense of morality that like this twisted character has come up with, maybe things turned out the way we wanted it to, and we'll never know though.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if it's bad or good.
Yeah.
So I vibe with this movie a lot. I've always liked it. I watched it years ago. I've watched it a couple times since. I'm a big sucker for a really good Western, and that's pretty much this. This is part of that neo-Western movement and really kind of got the groundswell for that.
Yeah.
And I think it's just great. Like, it's one of those, I think it's great top to bottom, and I can understand your feeling about certain events. But I think that's what makes the discourse about the movie like really interesting.
Yeah, it's weird because the climax of the film to me is like in the end of the second act.
For sure.
And the third act is like kind of just the...
It's all denouement.
Just like, yeah, the fallout of it. And you're like, okay, it just feels like it crescendos way a little too early for me for the rest of the film.
I got you.
But I understand. I get the counterpoint with it. I just my personal preference. I'm not really a big fan of that last act. But there's great scenes in it, like the scene of I mentioned earlier about like I'm not gonna call it. You know, that's a great scene.
Yeah, I can't call it for you is one of the great lines.
Yeah, great line. It makes it worthwhile still. So Joe, would you recommend this film to the general audience? I'm gonna guess yes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I recommended it for this.
You did pick the movie to do.
And I also, in preparation, like I watched this with my dad, and my dad had never seen it, and I was like, "Oh, this."
And
this
he's an old man.
This is gonna be a treat. This is gonna be a treat. Just because like I know he likes westerns too, like good ones. Because we both grew up watching a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're in for a treat. This is a great like because it's like it's a Hitchcock western.
Yeah.
And it's
in a
like,
Coen Brothers lens.
It's so good. And it's not even the Coen Brothers like. It doesn't have a lot of that Coen Brothers levity. There is that like sardonic humor that shows up.
Yeah.
But it's very like. Will he, won't he, like, is he caught up? Like, holy shit, he's right behind him. Like, how is he going to get out of this situation? Yeah. And he, like, always finds a way out, but there's always, like, a way that he gets back into it. It's great.
Yeah. I'll also recommend it. Even though there is some gripes I have at the third act, that most of the movie is so freaking good. It's one of the best Coen Brothers films they've ever done. So yeah, that's our thoughts on No Country for Old Men. What are your thoughts on the film? Let us know in the comment section below right now. Just do it right now. Hit like, subscribe, and then share the film, and then comment on it. Let us know of any other films we should be doing. You know what? I feel like 2025, we need more Westerns. I know you want that. I kind of been leaning on it too, so make suggestions. It's a new year, so new suggestions.
I've made Western suggestions before, and I still have some in the bank.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to sprinkle some more, and there's other movies I want to sprinkle in there too that we don't usually do. We haven't done in a while, and maybe some German films. Ooh. Maybe some Fassbinder films. Ooh. But yeah, let us know in the comments below any suggestions you have that are Criterion or upcoming Criterion films. They announced, like, I think they're up to March at this moment.
Yeah.
At this moment, so if there's any that in the upcoming months that you want us to do, let us know. So until next time, I'm Wade.
And I'm still Joe.
And we'll see you later.